There's some hoes in this house. Alex Kurtzman continues to defy his critics by simply existing. We also get a quick update regarding Strange New Worlds and the Star Trek Prodigy show, and wrapping it all up with a second finalized update on the Tardigrades lawsuit. Let's pour it up! Hey everybody, Ketwolski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Earl Grey Pour Up video discussions. Today we've got a couple of really exciting news stories I want to go ahead and get through to you guys. There's not a whole lot kind of being announced in regards to Discovery or Picard or even Lower Decks now that it's actually on air, but we did get two updates about the other upcoming Star Trek projects that we've kind of kept our eye on overall over the last couple of months. So the first story I want to go ahead and talk about is another interview that Alex Kurtzman has done recently where he talked a little bit about his expectations and desires for the new Captain Pike series entitled Strange New Worlds. He said this, quote, "I think Strange New Worlds, under the guidance of Henry Myers and Akiva Goldsman, is going to be a return in a way to the original series. We're going to do standalone episodes. There will be emotional serialization. There will be two-parters. There will be larger plot arcs, but it really is back to the model of Alien of the Week, Planet of the Week, Challenge of the Ship of the Week." So of course this does fall in line with the theories that I have presented on my own channel, which is what I thought was going to be happening on this show. When they did the whole announcement thing, I believe Anson Mount's very specific words were that it was going to be a return to classical Star Trek, which I think means both in tone of the optimism, but also in the style of storytelling, which we're getting a little bit of inside of Lower Decks. So it makes sense that they're going to have a couple of shows that are kind of like that, but the serialization of the continuous episodes are going to be something that maybe is kind of focused on Picard or Discovery, or maybe they'll even change those up. Who knows? We'll actually see what happens here with Discovery here in a little bit. But with Strange New Worlds, that was a theory of mine that they were going to have some more emotional through plots that were going to connect these characters. It wasn't going to be that sort of reset that we got in TNG and DS9, really, and even in some cases Voyager in some regards, where every other episode there would be this huge catastrophic event, and then suddenly they would just simply forget about it and move on and go to the next catastrophic event. It's something that they're picking up on and kind of playing with a little bit in Lower Decks. But I feel like they're not going to really necessarily be doing those specific things inside of Strange New Worlds. I think they're going to be doing a softer reset, a much lighter reset, where they kind of go from adventure to adventure based off of what Alex Kurtzman says, but they're going to hang on to those emotional through plots and have maybe some good character growth moments for Spock and Number One and Anson Mount and some of the other critical bridge crew that we don't necessarily know who all of them are going to be at, so that's going to be very exciting to see. He also did go on to talk about how Captain Pike is going to be wrestling with the concept that he understands what his future is, and how does somebody in that position, knowing exactly how they're going to end up and essentially die, at least from his perspective. He doesn't know what happens at the end there. He goes back to Talos. We know that, but he doesn't know that yet. But he's kind of having to deal and wrestle with that reality that he's going to wind up in that chair all crazy looking and janky. How does he continue to lead the crew and be very optimistic about the future and inspire them and be a good leader? How does one deal with that? And I think that's something that they're going to really get into. Alex Kurtzman said that's something that they're going to talk about heavily and kind of dive into with his character, but not to the point where it's going to be overwhelming. And from what I'm gathering is the focus is going to be on his ability to overcome that knowledge and still rise to the occasion and be this awesome, powerful Starfleet officer that we all know him and that we fell in love with, and Mount's portrayal of Captain Pike from Discovery. So I don't think they're trying to detract away from that. I think they're just going to kind of explore that in a lot of ways, which I think is really great. And I'm very excited to hear that they're going to be really sticking to that kind of self-contained plots, but also kind of mixing it a little bit with those things that we've experimented with the couple of seasons of Discovery and with Picard by kind of creating some through plots that go out throughout the rest of the season. I think that this is a natural progression for where television is at. A lot of television likes to stay super connected nowadays, and they're trying to, I think, figure that out in Star Trek's world, where things were a little bit more kind of self-contained as you move through each of the episodes and each of the seasons and each of the films for the most part, that now they're trying to figure out a way to strike up a balance where it's self-contained but also has some emotional through plots there. So I'm very excited to hear that information. Another quick update that we got about a new Star Trek show is Star Trek Prodigy. Of course, this is the Nickelodeon show that is going to be targeted for a much younger audience. This was announced last year, but we haven't really gotten too much information about it. In fact, just recently at San Diego Comic-Con, we actually got the first title reveal. That's really all we know beyond the kind of generic plot piece that they threw out, which is a group of younger kids finds a Starfleet ship and then they go on some kind of adventure. We have no idea if that's even still the case, if that's even still going to be the primary driving point of that show. That was said a long time ago. Things could have changed from there, or really really what any of that actually means, but they did get a creative director for the show. And this is from a news excerpt, quote, Nickelodeon CBS Television Studios announced the award-winning director and producer Ben Hibden will direct, co-executive produce, and serve as the creative lead for Nickelodeon's all-new animated series, Star Trek Prodigy. So this is great news, hearing that things are kind of moving forward here. I think some people might be theorizing that, this show is either completely canceled or much further along the lines than it actually is. I don't think either one of those is true. I think they're still kind of getting the ball rolling back there. Again, I did see some information from the upfronts that happened earlier this year, and honestly, it wasn't a whole lot of info. I don't actually think that this show is that far along at all. But I think they're starting to really ramp things up, especially given all the conditions that people are having to go through with COVID. I think there may be a special kind of focus being added into these animated shows where I think the Lower Deck second season has finished wrapping up its writing. I think Mike McMahon was tweeting about that the other day. And now I think the focus is going to be on this Prodigy show as well, because a lot of these things can be done in remote locations, whether that be through the audio recording by the actors or the actual animation piece or the editing piece or the composition of the music piece. So I think that there's going to be a little bit more focus on these animated shows, at least in the foreseeable 6 to 12 months, as we're still kind of dealing with the COVID situations. Now, that's not to say that they're going to be pushing back the productions any further of Picard or Discovery Season 4, which we know that they actually are writing based off of an interview that Alex Kurtzman gave us last week. But I think that there's going to be a bit more of a holdup with those, and they're maybe taking a little bit longer because of all the extra precautions they're having to do with the crew and the cast. So I think that they're trying to maybe shift a little bit of focus here to make sure these animated shows are getting pumped out. So there's still constant Star Trek being produced and published onto CBS All Access and Viacom, CBS International, whatever that subscription service may be in the future. Okay, and the last story that we're going to talk about today is the second ruling on the whole situation with Anas Abdin's Tardigrade theft lawsuit, the copyright infringement lawsuit that he launched many, many years ago, I think back in 2017 when the original Season 1 of Discovery came out. For those of you who don't really know, I will link up a video here in the top corner that really recaps the situation with that whole case and kind of my investigation as to what was kind of going on there. Some of you may remember I initially supported Anas during his very first lawsuit against CBS because I thought some things were a little suspicious in my personal opinion. But after the first case was dismissed and the judge ruled in favor of CBS and Netflix, he went ahead and filed an appeal, and then that's when I kind of raised a couple of red flags with why he was doing that. He was kind of getting involved with the Phantom Menace in a lot of ways, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and that's when I made that video I just linked to you guys and kind of delved into some of the background and kind of really got into the details and into the weeds as to what really was going on there instead of just kind of taking it at the surface level. So definitely an interesting video. I would recommend you check that out, but we did get a second ruling in that case, which is that it was, of course, dismissed again. The judge ruling says, quote, Abdin's space traveling tardigrade is an unprotectable idea because it is generalized expression of a scientific fact, namely the known ability of a tardigrade to survive in space. By permitting Abdin to exclusively own the idea of a space-traveling tardigrade, this court would improperly withdraw that idea from the public domain and stifle creativity naturally flowing from the scientific fact that tardigrades can survive in the vacuum of space. The ruling also went on to talk a little bit about the characterization. Some of the characters from Discovery also similarly looked like characters from Abdin's game, and it basically said that they were just too general in person in order to actually narrow down specific connection points between his character in the game, and then the characters inside of Star Trek Discovery. And if you actually do watch that video I linked to you earlier, there's actually a bit more of similarities between the characters in Anas's game and the actual original series of Star Trek. So there's a lot more going on there. It's a very complicated thing, and there's a lot to kind of get through. Again, I'm not going to recap all of that, but we did get this next ruling here. There hasn't been a whole lot of rumblings online about it. I do think that is simply because the Phantom Menace has essentially moved on from this particular case, so they're not super focused on it anymore. You guys may have remembered that they helped raise thousands and thousands of dollars for him through a GoFundMe campaign that launched this second appeal, and then another GoFundMe page was started up that did not really go anywhere because it did not have the backing of that support structure. Now, I know a lot of people are still going to say that the judges are, it's rigged and that they're being bought off by CBS or whatever it is, but this case is now dead. The only other thing that Anas could do is to take this case all the way up to the Supreme Court, which they're absolutely not going to hear this case. So it is, for all intents and purposes, dead at this point. I hope that Anas moves on from this situation and continues to develop his game and actually gets it published. I would love to actually check it out and play it and be a part of that whole kind of community there of supporting an indie game developer. That is, I think, what his focus should be on, and that's what all of our focus should be on, and hopefully he can move on from here. All right, guys and gals, that does wrap up my video for today. Just a couple of quick news stories. Really, we are going to be returning later this week with my episode 3 review of Star Trek Lower Decks, and I've got another video that I'm kind of cooking up a little bit that I've been working on for quite a while now. There's quite a bit of moving parts there. I may even do a video premiere on it, but more to follow on that later on. I hope that you guys and gals did enjoy this video. If you did, please throw up a like and a subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel, and also slap that notification button so you can stay up to date with all of the new and upcoming Ketwolski videos. Anyways, go ahead and let me know what you guys think about all of this news. What do you think about the situation with Strange New Worlds, and are you excited to see that Prodigy is finally moving forward? And how do you feel in regards to the second outcome of this Tardigrade lawsuit? Get your comments up down below, and we'll go ahead and get the conversation started. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!